All right, class, welcome back to Project 4, Hero Villain Portrait. I have some portraits here of samurais. I decided on a samurai for my portrait. Specifically, I was looking at some different ones, and this one's from Westworld, Season 2. So I took pictures based on that after kind of talking to my kids and my wife and helping me decide. I took a whole bunch of different photos, about probably 10 total, which you're supposed to do as well. And then I kind of picked the ones that I thought I could use the most and put those together to make this kind of mock-up of what my picture might look like. So here we go. Get started with the video portion of this. What you see here at the beginning is I am taking these photos and I'm kind of cutting out the parts that I don't like and then adding them back in from different photos. So I'm kind of putting things together. I definitely have a video on YouTube of doing this, and specifically just this. But I'm playing around with the size, I'm playing around with which hands do I like, which face do I like, which neck do I like. So I ended up using one body, a different head, and different hands for this to put this whole photo together. This is kind of just like using trace paper to try and figure out where and what I want to put together. So now I'm kind of cleaning up the edges around the hands. And once I have that all together, I'm going to go through and start making my drawing. It's usually a little bit tricky unless you're going to draw in a bright color and then change that afterwards to draw on top of a photo that's not lightened up. So you're going to see me take this photo and lighten it up, and here we go. We start drawing. Starting with the edge of the face and pretty much working on the head. In these videos, and the software I'm using this time is Infinite Painter. It doesn't show you that I am zooming in and drawing up close. I'm tracing. So for this portrait project, you should also be tracing, whether it's trace paper or copy paper, or, if you have any ability to try and trace the photo, you should be doing that. Even if it's printing out and then rubbing the back of the printout with charcoal to transfer it over. I'm doing this layout so I can turn around and make a painting from it. And that's what you see in the old Sith Lord selfie process that I already have posted. Here I just decided I'm trying to go with something new. So I wanted to go with a samurai. I wasn't really feeling going back to Game of Thrones like I did last year. So I'm going with samurai, and my kids like Samurai Jack, so turning it into Samurai Jed. So I've got my face, and then I'm kind of using the other photo from Westworld to kind of create and make the outfit that I'm going to have to really kind of work on a little bit in the painting stage, but all I need for this stage is to just be kind of close to what it should look like. Now that I've got the drawing, I'm going to tone the background, and Infinite Painter allows me to make this giant selection, and it's going to kind of mess up for a second, and then I have to go back and redo it. But I can make this selection just like a lasso tool, and once I have that, I can go in and add a gradient, which is something that Procreate doesn't really have. It has a version of this kind of, but not as good as Infinite Painter. So here you see me kind of moving that gradient around. I can change the colors. I can play around with those. So I'm kind of perfecting the gradient, figuring out where I want that to be. I was thinking cooler at the bottom, warmer at the top. And then I'm going to start to maybe block in a little bit of shadows on here. I tried to use a watercolor brush, and I don't think that it was overly effective. So then I decided, okay, let's start to block in something of a background. I'm trying to think about angles that kind of focus you back on the figure, kind of keep you focused there. So I've drawn some architecture based on some of the photos that I was looking at. And then what I was trying to do was do a fill here, but it wasn't really working. So then I did a lasso first, and then I'm just going to paint it all dark. On top of there, I just started to kind of paint some shrubs and some trees here over on the right edge. I'm going to keep this kind of loose. I'm not worried about too much detail because, again, I am going to do this traditionally with acrylic paint on paper. I'm not going to necessarily paint this digital. And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. This is an old school medium. You may not have acrylic, but whatever paint you have, that's what I want you to use, even if it's watercolor. So with these darker building images, I started to kind of use the eraser to carve into them. And I kind of started to see kind of like a woodcut process. Then I kind of found that little samurai that I could put in a doorway over there. I thought that was kind of good. I got to keep it a little bit soft and in the background. But get a little architecture in there, some other dark areas. And what I'm going to finally start to do is kind of rebuild some of the drawing, make some darker, thicker lines, bring some color back to the shadows on the drawing, because the initial drawing was just line drawing. So now that the background has more value and more color to it, I think the figure needs more color to it. And I am going to do the next process and explore light and dark colors on light and dark backgrounds and warms and cools and all those things. And I'll do that in acrylic. So add some highlights, add some hair color, and now hit some shadows really quick right at the end. And the one thing that kind of popped into my mind is, all these kimonos and stuff like that have a pattern on them. So I decided to go through and overlay a pattern. I thought the Infinite Painter had a, lasso that you could just drop a pattern into, but it didn't. So I put the pattern on top, then I clipped the layer to the silhouette of the previous gradient we put on there. And so now I'm just kind of erasing the pattern off of the hand, the sword, the arms, the face. And that way it'll stay just right on top of the figure and the kimono. So there's the layout complete. Thanks again.